If I'm just beginning learning to draw, is it better to start drawing from photos or to start drawing from my imagination? Which is going to help me more? This is a great question, and partly because it opens up a great reason to understand more fully what the drawing process is. And that's going to help us at the start of our drawing journey, regardless of which way we want to be ending up being able to draw. But the answer partly does depend on why I'm drawing, in that if I'm drawing because really I want to have a pleasant, calming, restful exercise to do, and I find basically doodling across a page a calming and enjoyable experience, then I don't need a photo to do that. In fact, trying to copy a photo may just be a complication that actually takes away from me the enjoyment that I get. However, if, as was the case for me, in your drawing you want to capture something of a real life feeling with the subject, in some sort of realistic way, not photorealism, not trying to actually make my drawing look like a photo, but something that does capture a sense of real world effect, then I would suggest that drawing either from real life or drawing from photos is a way that's going to get us to be able to do that faster than if I draw all the time or sometimes from my imagination. Let me explain why. Because it becomes a great way to understand the drawing process, and that's going to help us in any drawing that we do at any level. So what happens when we draw from a photo? What's the process that's actually going on that ends with a drawing on the paper? Well, I'm observing something, I'm looking at something on a two-dimensional sheet of paper, and I have a pen or a pencil, and I need to translate what I see on the photo onto the paper. I may think in terms of I'm copying what I see, but I'm not really, because, say, with a black pen, I can't copy what I see on the paper. I can't copy the colour, for starters. I can't copy all the detail in the photo. Photos can capture an alarming amount, an overwhelming amount of detail. Even though the photo is two-dimensional, it usually captures a sense of roundedness of 3 dimensions. It produces a whole range of edge effects of the various subjects depending on what they are, what they're made of, the distance, the lighting. For all of this, I just have an ink line coming out of a pen. So I can't just copy, because what I have is different to the camera lens and mechanism that took the photo. So I have to take what's in the photo and transfer it, transform it, or as I like to think, translate it into another form, into the form that can happen from ink on paper. And this translation work, this taking one thing and creatively turning it into something else, ink on the paper, to create something that says something about what I looked at. I might think it's a copy, but it's actually not a copy. I'm creating something different. And this is why it can be so challenging, particularly the more complex our scene becomes, because there's more creative translation needed. And if you've started to learn to draw, you already understand that's not always so easy to do. In fact, it's often quite perplexing how to do it. But this is the challenge of drawing. One of the things we need to discover is that we need to learn to observe our reference in a new way. That sort of looking at something that's quite adequate for everyday life does not give us the information we need as then a starting point to put the marks on the paper. So there are lots of things involved in this. So how is this process different when I draw from imagination? Because I'm not looking at anything. Well, actually, we are. What we're looking at is something in our mind. What we're looking at is the memory of this subject that we've stored in our mind. I'm old enough to have had a lot of experience with filing cabinets, and I think of it as like our mind is like a filing cabinet, and we have all these drawers for different subjects, and when we see a certain subject, we open the drawer and we put that memory into that file. And when I go to draw that subject from my imagination, what I'm doing is I'm opening the drawer for, say, tree or car or portrait, and I'm rummaging around and I'm looking at all the references that I've stored away, and I'm finding the ones that are going to be helpful for me now to, in effect, do the same process do the creative translation. It's just that I'm using the memories of these subjects rather than looking at one actual reference in front of me. And if you're not already understanding how much more challenging this is to do, then this next point will make it clear. Because when I draw from a photo, in the photo, by definition, I've got the exact, if you like, positioning, the exact lighting, the exact perspective, the exact proportions that I'm trying to draw right in front of me. But when I'm rummaging through my imagination filing cabinet, when I'm looking at my memories of, say, a car, I have lots of different cars and lots of different angles and lots of different lighting and lots of different colors and lots of different things that at the time I was focused on, and other things that for one reason or another didn't interest me so much, and I didn't look at those things so intensely. But now that I need to draw that, I actually need to have the memory of everything, every part of that car. In effect, I'm taking a dozen or hundreds even of different memories, and I need to sift through them, and I need to choose the relevant ones, and I need to combine them into the one image. And I actually also need to, if you like, rotate the image in 3D space to give me the perspective, the viewing angle that I need or that I want for my drawing from my imagination. You don't need me to say now, this is incredibly challenging to do well. This is a challenge, I believe, for someone who is actually very competent at drawing from references or from life, and virtually impossible for a beginner at drawing to do well, because there are so many other parts of the creative translation process that need to be worked on at the same time. But of course, this doesn't mean it can't be done, and this doesn't mean that you can't do it. But as a beginner, this almost certainly isn't the right time for you to do it. But how can I work towards, as a beginner, being able to draw from my imagination? And here's a few suggestions if this is something you would like to do. Maybe you want to be drawing comics or backgrounds for video games, and so you need to be able to create from your imagination various subjects in various positions. I would recommend, firstly, learn to draw as well as you can from references, because almost all the skills that you'll develop there, you'll be using in drawing from your imagination. But secondly, have an idea of the sorts of subjects that you're going to want to be drawing from your imagination and use them to draw from life and from references. Because what you're doing now is you've opened the filing cabinet drawers for those subjects, and you're putting lots of files into them. You're collecting lots of memories, and because you're drawing those things now from references, you're going to force yourself to look at all the parts of those subjects that we need to see and to understand, even the less obvious and less interesting parts. We're going to pay attention to all of them and learn some ways we can translate those parts, as well as the more exciting ones, into marks on the paper to create the overall drawing. The problem, if we try and draw from imagination too early as a beginner, is that because we lack the memories that we need to draw on, we simply can't do as good a job as we need to do, as we would want to do. But we may even lack the drawing experience and observation experience to appreciate that what we're drawing from imagination has significant issues. And that means that when I keep drawing like this, I'm actually practicing, if you like, reinforcing drawing things that have problems. I don't want to do that. I want to learn to draw things well. I want to learn to be able to look at something I've drawn from a reference first, where it's easier, and to think, that looks right, and think, this looks right. This is how this thing looks when it's drawn correctly. Or to think, there's something still not right, and learn what that something is, and learn how to overcome it in the easier context of a reference to be comparing my drawing with. And then from that stronger place, that more knowledgeable place, to start drawing from the imagination, having overcome these issues. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Hope this has been helpful. And if you are beginning at drawing, why not check out my playlist, because I have a few that have various subjects for beginners to draw. One of them is videoed in actual time drawing speed, and this will save you the trouble and the time and the hassle of finding something to draw each drawing session. So why not check those out? But look, wherever you draw, from reference, from imagination, from one of my playlists, or from something right in front of you, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.